So as most of you guys have probably seen by now, I recently made a video where I was actually talking about West Coast and how I think, they went with their AFL draft in 2025. And instead of talking about like the talent level and the players overall they selected, which I'm going to actually be talking about in today's video, I really focused on a little bit of a different direction that one, actually talking about kind of them placing some bids on and kind of disrupting the draft. But as just previously mentioned just then, I want to talk about in today's video how I genuinely believe West Coast may have just dominated the 2025 AFL draft, specifically focusing on definitely their first three picks, but of course going into a little bit of the other stuff that of course have happened as well. Now, I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm not going to start off with the pick 1 and the pick 4 that they, of course, had. I think I'm going to start off here with the pick number 19 that they did end up having in Josh Lindsay, because I do think this is a really, really good pick for the Eagles. I genuinely believe the Eagles had too much to improve on for next season, where it didn't come down to them at all thinking about positional needs. I genuinely believe they could have pretty much taken anyone best available in this draft and kind of fit them in, and that's exactly what they did. But one really key thing I feel like they have really tried to do, like a point of emphasis in this offseason, does happen to be, I think, improving their backline. And the realistic thing is they've just walked out of this offseason now with, I think, potentially 3 to 4 new backmen for 2026. They, of course, traded and signed Tyler Young and Brandon Starcevich. But then in this draft, not only did they get Dersma, who can play halfback, but they did bring in Josh Lindsay at that 19th overall pick, who you could almost consider a steal. He did have a bit of a up and down like second half of the year, but the first half of the year, this guy was in top 5 pick contentions, and a lot of people were really looking at him just for his ability to be able to be a really solid back pocket and a very nice kick. A player who I've seen, I feel like some of the clips that I've watched with Josh Lindsay, who he kind of reminds me of, is a bit of like a Jaden Short. And it's funny because Andrew McQualter, of course, coached Jaden Short to 3 premierships. McQualter more so focused on the midfield and Short was in the back line, but he's had a player like Jaden Short when he was, of course, on that very successful Richmond team. And I feel like he's just brought a guy in right now in Josh Lindsay, who's a pretty good, prolific kick, who can play that back pocket. In Jaden Short's really good day when he was winning the best and fairest at Richmond, this guy could pierce through teams' systems, and he could really set up a play that a lot of back pockets in the AFL wouldn't be able to do. And I really do feel like if Josh Lindsay is going to convert and be as good of a kick as what we've seen his first half of the year was with the Geelong Falcons and whatnot, I do really believe that this could be a massive pickup for West Coast. And they've already got Tyler Young being that tall defender now to go play down there with like Harry Edwards or whatever, whoever they're going to roll with as key backs next year. But they've also got Brandon Starcevich now, who can play the taller and the smaller. I felt like they needed a guy who could, defend the smaller option here, go on the traditional small forwards. And that's exactly what they've done with Josh Lindsay. And I think this was a really, really good pick. It's really interesting because, like I mentioned in the previous video, you could tell they were kind of looking for a good kick here, especially a guy who could do it off the back line, because they actually placed a bid on Jai Murray before they just, elected to take Josh Lindsay with this pick. So that's worked out really well. That's been a really awesome draft pick by them. The ones that everyone's all talking about, the ones that we kind of know at this point, but Dersma at pick 1 and Kuba Tyler at pick 4 were really, really good picks. They were the best available players at this pick. You arguably just have the number 1 and the number 2 players in this draft now go to the West Coast Football Club here. And I think Dersma is going to be a great option. I do think they might start him off in the midfield. We'll see if that sticks. You know, I think the ability to play halfback and wing, which Willem Dersma can do, is a really great option for him. And I think it's something we're going to see a lot of in 2026. You know, if they've got Josh Lindsay down there, I don't know if they'll have Willem Dersma down there as well. But Dersma can also play wing, and I really like Dersma on the wing. So we'll have to see where he does play in 2026, but it could be all over the place, and he might not even be playing bad in the inside. Like, for him to be moved, like, it just is a step for a guy like Willem Dersma to develop and become a better player. Like, plenty of draftees did that this year and moved around multiple different positions. You know, Harvey Langford played a lot of midfield, spent some time on the wing, spent some time up forward. Luke Trainer started off as a backman, transitioned into a wing. It always happens. It's a learning experience for a lot of these players, and that's where they could go with Willem Dersma here. Obviously, the best option pretty much in this draft. Going to be cool to see if him and Harley Reid really do click, and that's going to be a dynamic duo going forward. You know, I hope for West Coast fans' sake that is what happens. And then Kuba Tyler here at pick 4. I mean, this is a great pick, especially with the new rules and how Andrew McQualter coaches. Having a smaller ruckman, but one who's athletic, is elite. And Kuba Tyler is going to be that. I think with McQualter's style, he needs, you know, a ruckman who can move around the ground, which Duff Tyler can. And the thing is, I have seen some people question Duff Tyler as a ruckman. You know, he's hit out, if anything was a weakness, sometimes he's hit outs, and how his ruck craft actually is can be considered a weakness by people. But honestly, I could see him as a full forward as well. Like, I saw a best 23 the other day of West Coast, and people had, you know, Shanahan in there, Waterman in there, and Kuba Tyler in there. And I was thinking, damn, that's a really good, like, trio of key forwards there. You know, you got someone like Shanahan, who could be like your number one option. Duff Tyler as the guy who changes from forward to ruck. And then, of course, Waterman in there is like your third tall, your player who's like even though he plays as the genuine number one key forward when he's healthy, but his height is like the third tall, if you guys know what I mean. And that's a really interesting thing. And then having like Matt Flynn as the ruck, basically just so Kuba Tyler doesn't get thrown in the deep end straight away. I think that's a really good idea. You know, they're going to have to be cautious with these two guys and getting them in. And I think they will be. They really do need to follow the Richmond approach, I think, and let them play maybe not their favorite position straight away, but one that's not going to kill them. Like, I think if Kuba Tyler plays full-time ruck straight away for the Eagles, that I don't know how he could go. He could get absolutely monstered in there. You know, ruckman takes some time to develop. So we'll see how that goes. And I think it's going to be a really awesome watch. I love all of those picks, to be honest. We also saw Sam Allen go to the West Coast Football Club here, a midfield forward at pick 29, which was another good pickup. You know, I've seen some of Sam Allen play, and I think he is going to be a good addition here. Like, he runs at a sub 6 minute 2K time trial. Very good runner, quick player. Another guy who just looks like he's going to fit in Andrew McQualter's style of that faster pace. You know, will he be a forward? Will he be a midfielder? I'm not too sure, but I think he's another guy who could play really early for the Eagles this year. I think all four of them absolutely could, and I wouldn't be surprised if like 3 of them debuted in round 1. And that's just the reality of things. I think the Eagles had a really good draft here. They drafted some other players here and there. And I'm not going to pretend I know a whole lot about all these other guys they took, like Tyler Williams. I don't know an exceptional amount. I think that might have been it for the AFL draft. But I do really like what I've seen from them. You know, they're completely changing their team here in one off season. Those 4 players that I just previously mentioned coming in through the draft now, I think could be round 1 additions. Dev Robertson coming in could be a round 1 addition. Tyler Young and Starcevic, round 1 additions. Bringing Waterman and Yo back. You can legitimately have like 12 different players just come into this team, and I wouldn't even be surprised. So I think the Eagles dominated this draft. I think they did really, really well. Of course, I'd very much love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for the latest AFL news, AFL content, all of the above. Go and subscribe to my gaming/movie channel, also linked down below. And check out my Instagram if you haven't already, which will be linked down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.